Part 2. We're doing straightforward analysis, being straight, going through game by game how Peyton Manning did in his playoff career, trying to establish whether or not you believe that when it comes playoff time, Peyton Manning's performance has dropped considerably. I don't think you can deny that. You want to use the word choke? Go ahead. I don't know. I think there is a little bit of an element of choke there. Certainly an element of pressure, because when you're not doing well, they're going to be looking at you closely. Let's see how he does this playoff game. Let's see. That's a lot of pressure for anybody. And Peyton Manning, certainly his body language, I believe, shows that there's something that's dropping, that he's not responding to pressure well, and his playoff performance has dropped. We've gone through his first 8 games of his career where he's already 3-5 and has lost to Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots twice, and has gotten Fs. If you would put a grade on his performance, his individual performance, he's gotten Fs in both of those games. 2 of the classics of all time of Bill Brady confounding the great Peyton Manning. And now I thought I had finished the first part of his career of negatives, and he's going to go on the upswing. I did forget one game now, the 9th one. We're going to call this still part of his early career. He now faces Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger. Now, you got to, again, try to go back. I know I don't remember every detail, but try to go back and remember that Indy was a huge favorite in this game. It was not expected that Pittsburgh was going to get. It wasn't one of Pittsburgh's greater defenses, but they had, of course, they always had a solid defense. Hard-hitting defense. That's what Pittsburgh's strength of the team was. Ben Roethlisberger was a guy who, don't picture the Ben Roethlisberger-led offense that they have now in Pittsburgh, that scores over 30 points a game this year. Where I'm doing this at 2015. Picture 2015 season. Picture a more running type offense with listen, I can't remember the name of the running back, the famous running back Jerome Bettis. A Jerome Bettis, hard-hitting, running type offense, a possession guy like Hines Ward, and that type of an offense. It was expected Indy's going to outscore Pittsburgh. And what happens? Pittsburgh jumps out to a 14-0 lead, surprising everyone. Whoa. First 2 drives. Try to remember how much of a surprise that was. Indy has to play catch-up ball. Indy has to play. I'm waiting for this buzz of the call to go by. A little low-tech stuff here. I won't answer it. Don't worry, there's a phone call coming in while I'm talking here. I'll talk. Okay. So Indy now has to play catch-up ball, and he had trouble all day. As a matter of fact, just to show a little bit of the pressure hitting him, is one of the only times in his career that a stand-up guy that Manning is, that he threw his offensive line under the bus after the game. That he said, well, he didn't say it directly, but he pretty much blamed this on his offense. And his offensive line did not give him time that game. And any quarterback's not going to do well, but even he felt the pressure of mentioning it in a way that made it sound like he was blaming this on the offensive line. Okay, the offensive line wasn't good. I think Peyton Manning's the kind of like they call him the offensive coordinator of the team. He's one of the guys who changes the plays at the line. He's one of those guys he's the one that can adapt the offense. So, Mr. Manning, you're getting hit. You're going to have to do something a little different. You're going to have to take some of the blame for the calls you made. You're going to have to take some of the blame for not scoring much that day and losing to a Pittsburgh team that you should have beaten. Again, I know, Mr. Manning, your defense was not that good, but your individual performance was, again, I'm going to call it an F for that day. You want to call it, because the offense, you want to call it a C. All right, make it a C. Certainly, again, subpar to the best regular season quarterback ever. That's not, I may not be exaggerating. He may be the best regular season quarterback ever. So then, come on, where's your playoff performances? You can't just blame it on your offensive line. I saw some of the comments. It was so refreshing that he said what he really felt. He was honest. He said, he didn't just say, well, it was my fault. So he said, we're to blame. That's not the type of honesty we're looking for. You got to take the blame for what you could have done, and you could mention, you could say, there are times I didn't have time. He phrased it in a way where he was putting a lot of the blame on the offensive line. Okay, now we get to the year that Peyton Manning's reputation is now going to change forever, because he is going to win a Super Bowl. He's 3-6 in his career playoff time, and now again they come into the playoffs a favorite to get far in the playoffs. They start off with they get a break. They play Herm Edwards' Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Herm Edwards is famous for the line, "We play to win the football game." Well, there's only one. If I had to point to coaches that I know in my mind would play the type of conservative offense to the point where I didn't think they were playing to win the football game, Herm Edwards would come to mind. And they just ran too many runs on 2nd and 10. They did have a strong running game, Kansas City, and that was one of Indy's weaknesses, playing against the run. Remember, Indy's never had a strong defense anywhere in Peyton Manning's career. But of course they're going to come up. Indy's going to come up and try to take the run away, so you're going to have to do a little play action, Herm Edwards. Anyway, I forgot the score. Was it 20-8, 21-8, 23-8, some weird score that the Indy beats Peyton Manning. But what about rating his individual performance the other day? They won. That's the key. But he threw 2 interceptions to a guy named, or was it 3? 2 or 3 interceptions to a guy named Ty Law. I might tell you he was going to meet that guy Ty Law. Well, he met him on New England. Now he's meeting him on Kansas City. And again, he threw you look at his stats that day. Again, I'm not a guy that goes by stats. I remember watching the game and saying, Manning's being regular. We'll give him a B. We'll give him a B minus, B plus, whatever you want. It's in the B's range. Certainly not an A game. You want to call it a C. At times I've rated that game C plus for him, because he did win, but he really wasn't that good in that game. The defense, surprisingly, was very good, and that's a theme throughout that postseason. All of a sudden, the Indy defense, which was terrible during the year, they were like rated 30th, I recall. I mean, I think it was the only team ever rated 30th or something over 30. They had some unusual stat where it was the lowest defense ever to win a Super Bowl. And playoff time, they were playing great defense. Now, some say it was because, and I was going to look up this guy's name, but I don't remember his name. Some safety that always gets hurt for them was back for the playoffs. And he was a key to their defense. Back in the secondary, hard-hitting guy. I forgot the guy's name. You'll look it up. But he was back for the playoffs. You want to say that's all of a sudden why they were playing great defense? I don't know, very hard to explain. But the defense for Indiana played very well throughout that whole playoff run. As we go to the next game, this was you got to give Peyton Manning credit on the next game, and that is against a very tough Baltimore defense in Baltimore. Cold, Ray Lewis. Now picture Baltimore, Ray Lewis. Now this wasn't one of their greatest defenses. Baltimore always had at least a hard-hitting defense throughout Ray Lewis's career. This wasn't one of their greatest, but it was a hard-hitting defense. And I thought for sure Baltimore was winning that game. I was very confident of Baltimore winning that game. As a matter of fact, I thought it was going to be a blowout. And Peyton Manning wasn't great. He threw a couple of picks. They got him, and you can't hold that in. I think Ed Reed had a pick in that game. And he only got 15 points. 5 field goals? Did he not score a touchdown in that game, Peyton Manning? I'm not sure, but the final score was 15 to 10. I don't remember the score, but it was 50. It was low scoring. Who could kill the game for Baltimore was a guy named Steve McNair, who was terrible in that game. Had he been okay, Baltimore probably would have won. Again, the Indy defense responding to the situation and playing excellent defense. They intercepted McNair in the end zone on a key play in the game as McNair was on the doorstep of scoring. And you got to give Manning credit with a small lead. Towards the end of the game, he led a 7-minute drive that knocked off a lot of clock, held on to the ball for 7 minutes in the cold towards the end of the game in the clutch time as the game's ending to seal that victory. I think that ended up in a field goal. if it didn't end up with points, it certainly knocked off whatever time remaining Baltimore needed to get to come back and win. I remember a 7-minute drive against a very tough Baltimore defense. So you got to give Manning, if you want. I don't think you can give him an A-. He didn't score that many points, and he was not that. He threw picks. We can give him in the B+ range. The B for his performance, the plus because it was in the playoffs, tough against a tough defense in Baltimore, and they won, and he had a tremendous drive at the end to seal the victory. Okay, that's number 2, and now he gets his rematch against New England, but this one is in New England. This one's in Indy. This time they got the home field, and it's championship game against his old nemesis, the New England Patriots. And I again said he's not going to get it done here. I don't care if he's home in the pleasant weather that you see now with the trees up there. Oh, look at the beautiful sky. Look, there's a helicopter. Can you see? A nice plane in the beautiful. I should show the beautiful sky, by the way. You got that? Look at that. Beautiful blue and white skies here in January, January 20th. And so he's playing in a nice dome, and what happens? New England jumps out to a 20-3 lead. 20-3. 21-0, 21-3. A pick six by Tyler. Not by Tyler. Pick six by, what was the guy? Asante Samuel. Pick six. Manning is choking again. Choking in quote again. Choking. The pressure of having to beat New England is getting to him, and he's not playing well. He gets a field goal. He brings him down to get a field goal right before the half. That they said that gave him a little momentum going into the second half, 21-6. We all know what happened in the second half. Touchdown. They take the lead, and it goes back and forth. And now, I always look at the last drives as being crucial in a close game. That goes far in how you rate the guy for the day. He did have a 3-and-out at a time that gave, with like 5 minutes left, that gave New England a chance to take the lead and win. But again, Indy's defense, though bad in this game, did make the stop there. You may remember the 3rd and 5, Troy Brown, if they connect, if New England connects and gets that first down to Troy Brown, the game is over, because New England would have been able to run out the clock from there. But no, incomplete. Indy gets it back, and sure enough, Tom, in his biggest drive of his career, Peyton Manning gets it done with comes all the way down the field for a touchdown. And now by the way, Brady, he really didn't have much of a chance here with only one timeout and a minute 30 to come all the way down. They were down 4, it's 38-34. So they needed not just a field, they needed a touchdown. That was asking too much. We'll talk about Brady a different time. Manning gets his victory over Belichick. He's going to the Super Bowl, and we will, at this point already, you say, Peyton Manning has finally shed this reputation of being a bad quarterback playoff time. I don't know if I would say that at this point. We'll talk about the Super Bowl in our next edition of the S.A.L.T production against the Bears and Rex Grossman. But I don't know if you rate his play, even his performances during that Super Bowl run. The Chiefs won 23-8. They won, not that good. Against Baltimore, okay. Like I said, he had some good elements to it here, but this was definitely his best performance. A+ against New England, and I don't know if I can quite yet say that he's right now he's 6-6 in the playoffs at that point, and he's going to the Super Bowl. Chicago. We'll talk about that on part 3. We're going over Peyton Manning's career playoff performances, or we're going over all 25 of them. We'll check you out on the next S.A.L.T production.